There you are. I see you hiding down there. And here we go again. Back on the case. Nice and easy to find that little coupler. Just pulled out the filter housing on the bottom here, and she was hiding right down there in the corner. So that's what fits into the drive there, coming off the transmission, onto the drive here for the pump. See, there's a little retaining spring right there. There's a couple grooves here to hold this in. Looks pretty good. There's a little bevel on the edge of here. So I think I'll set this in a vise, get a nice fine file, and I'll clean that up a little bit. Pop that back in. And then we're going to move on to the PTO shaft today. We're going to cut that stub off. There we go. That coupling is off. That PTO shaft is a mess. You can see the twist in it of that shaft, and not to mention how rusted it is. The divot here where normally a cross pin would go is in good shape, and the cross holes there. So I'm going to be getting another one of those stubs and a bolt right to it. But I'm going to try to get this PTO apart so we can disassemble this whole thing. Because one thing I realized is the bearing in here got a lot of play in it. So we're going to check that out next. Well, that popped apart way too easy. All I had to do was take the C-ring off that sits in this groove here. And I set the housing between the two boards thinking I was going to have to pound it out. And just the weight of the PTO assembly itself, it just dropped through. So I took the collar out, which sits tight against the shaft, and the lip seal that's here. I just cleaned it up, and there's no grooves on it or anything. It's a good seal. And in further inspection, that bearing actually is tight, real tight. I think it was just the length of the PTO assembly itself rocking in there, because it does ride on a couple needle bearings that are up inside. We're just going to slide off the PTO brake, and then we're going to get the end of the stub and put it in the wire wheel over here and see if we clean it up and see how bad it really is. That wasn't too bad. You can see just how pitted that shaft is. This here would be the regular spline, what it's supposed to look like. And you can see that shaft is just rattling on it for number one. And number two, it's twisted. Replacing the shaft, like I mentioned, it's to find it be the first hard part. Second thing is the price of it that I'm not really wanting to spend the money on. But it's okay because this is a very short shaft and it's a very long drawbar on this tractor. So the stub that I cut off, wherever it's hiding, I'm just going to end up putting another one of those back on. And it'll be a bolt-on type. So it'll slide over just like the other one did. And there's 2 3/4-inch bolts that'll clamp it tight to the end of this PTO shaft. And that'll be fine. Won't be any wobble, and I won't have to worry about replacing it anymore. I'll put a little never-sees in here just to keep this from rotting out anymore and corroding up. But I'm going to say that's done. The brake looks pretty good. It's not as bad as I thought it was. I thought this was melting or just coming out, but I guess that's the way the material is because it's thick here. It's within the spec that's in the manual. The piece that's missing is like a perfect square, so it's like they stopped putting it in there. Maybe I don't know how they put this on. Maybe it's in a strip or whatever. But it's in good shape. The bearing here, once I got it out, and then, like I said, in further inspection, is that I think it's just the length of the shaft because it spins in there smooth and it's tight. So I'm going to wash it out and clean it out. The seal probably should be replaced. It's an A11120. Lots of them available. They're cheap. I don't have one on me, and they don't have one at the local store. So I'm just going to put it back together. It's easily changed when it's on the tractor, so I'm not worried about it that if it does leak after pulling out the sleeve and that, I can just replace it on the back of the tractor, no problem. It'll probably only take about 10 minutes. So, just going to wash this back housing, clean it up, and get ready to pop this back in the tractor. And there we are. PTO is back in. Spinning freely. Locked on. Works good. Get everything else clean inside here. These little O-rings that are around here that seal the pump to these main housings. There's one recessed inside here too. They're getting a little hard. It doesn't look like they're available. So I think I'm just gonna probably soak them in transmission fluid for the week. And then I'll clean them off, put a little RTV silicone on there. So that when I put the pump back on, they'll seal nice to it. And then let it sit, for a few days before I fill this thing up with oil or run it. But I'm happy how this PTO shaft turned out. Be able to get a coupler that'll fit nice on there. Then it's onwards and upwards. Once that goes together, we'll start getting the platform back on. Get ready to throw these wheels back on and fenders. So again, thanks for watching. This is the end of the video. Things still going well. We'll see you guys in a week.